Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Welcome to the latest episode of the Laughing Place Movie Club. Today, we're doing something a little different. It's not a Disney Plus movie, but it is on Hulu, which is part of the Disney bundle. So, we wanted to give them some love and talk about their new movie, Palm Springs, which seems to be doing very well for the service, but not for kids. Um, unless you're like old and your kids are like 20, um, which happen. Like my dad's kids can watch it. Um, So uh, it premiered at Sundance, Alex. So it was around at Sundance. So Hulu didn't buy it yet. It's something they acquired, but we heard about it at Sundance, even though we didn't see it, right?
Right. Yeah. It wasn't on my radar for Sundance because I was there just to cover the things that we knew were Disney owned or going to be Disney owned. I think on my last day at Sundance is when they made the announcement that Hulu was buying Palm Springs. And by that point, it was just too late. There was no way I was going to be able to attend a screening of it. But in a way, I think it's better that I waited, and I knew literally nothing about it other than it was Andy Samberg produced and starring and set in Palm Springs. And I think going into it blind like that was the way to go. So if anybody is watching this who hasn't seen Palm Springs yet, I would say pause us, watch the movie, and then come back. It's really required viewing.
We probably won't still be live after they're done watching the movie.
We won't be live, no, but this will be on YouTube for them to come back and watch if they want to be part of the conversation.
Although it is a brisk 90 minutes, though, so which is another good thing about it.
It is. It has really good pacing, I feel, as a result. And it's very unlike pretty much everything I saw at Sundance, too. I didn't know I didn't encounter anybody at Sundance who saw it, so I didn't hear any buzz about it. But I was really surprised by it.
Yeah, so Alex, do you want to give us a little bit of rundown about the cliff notes of it?
Yeah, essentially it's about Niles, played by Andy Samberg, and he's typical Andy Samberg character, very quirky, but also seems to weirdly have a lot of things in life figured out despite not being in a great place. And as you come to find out fairly quickly, he's stuck in a time loop, a very Groundhog Day or Christmas Every Day style issue where every single day restarts, and he is back at this wedding with his girlfriend and not really connected to her anymore. And so trying to make this connection with somebody else. And there's kind of a very specific way that people get stuck in this time loop, and he introduces someone else into it, and everything goes from there. It's kind of the best way I can sum it up. It's weird. It's a hard movie to sell in just like an elevator pitch, which I think is why he did it independent, despite, other than the director and the writer, nothing about it actually really feels independent to me.
One thing that I thought was interesting was it definitely had that Palm Springs aesthetic. For example, they go to a house and they stay inside the pool because the owners aren't there. Mm-hmm. Now, it wasn't this house, but Alex, would you say it looks kind of like this house?
It does look like that house, and I think I know what that house's connection is to history.
Yeah. So that's Walt's house at Smoky Ranch. And so, he used to, I guess, it was his like weekend getaway was at Smoky Ranch, a community, in this Palm Springs area. And it's actually, knowing that helped me understand this movie a little bit, as in like, even when I lived in LA, I didn't quite get what Palm Springs was, but it's really sort of like a place where you go on the weekend to get away from it all, like kind of like the Hamptons of LA. And so, it's not super developed. It's the desert, this is Walt Disney's house, right? Like this is no mansion. And, it kind of helped explain to me a little bit about the look of this place. But Mike, what did you think of the movie?
So I actually went into this movie thinking I wasn't going to like it because, well, Groundhog Day is one of my favorite movies ever made, probably like top 15, if not top 10. But I'm really tired of that premise being kind of overused, and I feel like we've seen it so many times at this point. There's even like an X-Files episode where they used that, and there's like those Happy Death Day movies now, and then there was like the Tom Cruise kind of thing they did, Live Die Repeat or whatever. But I found myself pleasantly surprised. I enjoyed it. I'm usually kind of lukewarm about Andy Samberg, but I thought he was funny. I laughed quite a bit, more than I thought I was going to. My favorite part of the movie was J.K. Simmons, who plays a minor role, but a very funny and kind of recurring role. Like, he pops up peppered in throughout the movie, like just enough, and I really enjoyed him. And yeah, it's a little touching. It's a little funny. It's not fantastic. I gave it like a B, I think. But yeah, enjoyed it. Would recommend.
Money at 30.
What's that?
Money at 30 brings up that the name of that movie that you were talking about is Ninja Tomorrow.
Sure, that was the name when they released it in theaters.
Yeah, because it looked like it was
stuck in a time loop.
Yeah.
But I thought, also like the execution of that idea was different enough. Like, they extrapolated enough from the Groundhog Day repeating day idea, and they actually referenced at the beginning. There's a line where he says like, "Oh, this is one of those repeating day things," like, okay, it's self-aware. They added enough, like, okay, the new ingredient added in the mix is that Andy Samberg is able to pull people into the time loop with him, so that that makes for a crazy, a much different type of a film, and I enjoyed that about it.
Yeah, what I liked about it is it had someone who already was. You didn't have to have the main character start from the beginning. You got to see how like it's already impacted him, and then you have the new person to be the juxtaposition. But Becca, what did you think?
I loved it. I loved it. When I first saw the trailer, I thought this is going to be something I'm going to enjoy, and I was not disappointed. It was a lot of fun. But yeah, definitely go in with knowing as little as possible if you haven't seen it yet.
So stop watching us and go watch the movie, like Alex said.
So, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, I went in blind, didn't really know anything. You know what? It also occurred to me, like, I knew Andy Samberg from Saturday Night Live, but I realized I had never really followed his spin-off project since then. I never got into Brooklyn Nine-Nine, never saw Popstar, Never Stop Stopping, but I didn't realize that Lonely Island Productions, and I did love the way this opened with Lonely Island classics, like Sony Pictures.
I wrote that down too. I thought that was a clever little call.
Yeah,
too.
That gave me a laugh right away. I didn't realize how much he produces that he's not in, and I love the Hulu series Pen 15. If you haven't watched that, it's a brilliant series. And then he also did a show on Freeform, one of the few like shows aimed at a teen audience that I could really stomach. That was really funny, and the name is escaping me right now, but I can pull that up.
I think it was Alone Together.
That's it.
Right?
Yeah, Alone Together was actually pretty watchable for Freeform.
Yeah,
I thought Popstar was really, really funny. Popstar is probably my favorite thing that I've seen Andy Samberg do.
Oh wow!
But I think Lonely Island is pretty funny in general.
Yeah, the trailer for Popstar, something about it put me off, so I never had any ambition to see it.
It's got a great recurring bit where Will Arnett is the guy from TMZ. Cutting back to the TMZ guys talking about these celebrities, and it's just hysterical. But yeah, we should talk about Palm Springs.
Definitely. What about it really kind of surprised you or took left turns for you that you weren't expecting? We talked a little bit about the relationship dynamic.
Well, mine's really not until towards the end of the movie, or no, I guess in the middle, in the second act, when she just disappeared. I was not expecting that to happen, and I was very curious as to where she went. But so that for me was the biggest like Whoa.
Yeah, they do a really good job of psyching you out, even at the end. You kind of don't really realize what's happening because they're just repeating their behavior at the end that they've been experiencing when you realize they're really celebrating. I also love the casting. And like I said, to me, in terms of casting, this is not cast like an independent film. They got a lot of people that are, maybe not huge names, but pretty recognizable. I think the biggest newcomer for me that I really wasn't familiar with was Kristen Milotti, who plays Sarah. But I recently got into Search Party, and Meredith Hagner, who plays Misty, Andy Samberg's girlfriend at the start of the film. She's basically playing the same character she plays on Search Party, but she's so funny as that character that I really didn't mind. I just really enjoyed everyone's performances in this, but definitely fell in love with Kristen Milioti, who I don't think I've seen her in anything before.
She was in How I Met Your Mother. Did
I
you
never
watch any of that? Okay.
I mean, I've seen an episode or two, but I never got into
And
it.
she was at the she was in Wolf of Wall Street. She was the I can't even Leo's wife, his actual wife, not she didn't have a huge role, but she was in
Is
that
this
movie too.
the main girl in Palm Springs?
Yeah,
She's in Fargo, the TV show. In one season, she was what's his name? Night Owl, Patrick Wilson's wife in that show. In Fargo.
I like that you know him as Night Owl.
Yeah. But yeah, to add on what Becca was saying about how when she disappeared, for the first like half an hour, all I kept thinking was like, they keep saying how they're like stuck together, but there was no reason why they had to be together. I was like, well, why doesn't she just like go off on her own? And then she did it, so that made me happy too.
Yeah, I really thought the film did a really good job too of delivering exposition slowly. Like you learned her story, or you found out her story before Andy Samberg's character did, but then the way that he found out was really interesting too. They did such a good job crafting that and delivering the information kind of sporadically as he organically learns it.
Yeah, it's interesting to me that the film got this so much buzz, even though it's got buzz from execution, not on concept. It's not getting into time loop. The log line of it sounds very, I mean, let's be frank, Groundhog Day, right? And so it's like the fact that it was able to become one of the record-setting purchases at Sundance off of a plot that we think we've seen before, even if we haven't seen it done this way, I think is impressive. I mean, it's not like cop movie. It's like time loop. It's a fairly narrow concept.
Yeah. I mean, I will say though, like given some of the things I saw at Sundance that already were either being distributed by a Disney segment or had started within a Disney segment, it's very different offering than I think what like Fox Searchlight, for example, was developing, or certainly it doesn't fit into the definition of what ESPN would be developing. And I'm not sure something like this would have done well in theaters. It's the kind of thing that probably would have been destined to become a cult classic later. But we have, Hulu as a medium to deliver it and make it like an instant hit, which is pretty cool.
One thing I wanted to bring up is until a year ago, Disney would have had no outlet for this movie. This movie would not be something we would be covering on Laughing Place. And I mean, and let's be frank, Disney is, Laughing Place covers anything Disney, not just the Disney brand, but Touchstone had essentially gone away. ABC, obviously, when it was a mass market network, Disney Channel, ESPN, those brands wouldn't have made a film like this. So now you have Searchlight doing one thing, and then you have Hulu, and Disney was able to go from moving all of that stuff off, Miramax, Touchstone, anything that wasn't a big budget spectacular, off their brand. And now, thanks to streaming And make no mistake, Fox Searchlight, even though they release the films theatrically, is really about the streaming window. Disney we are exposed to something by Disney that we wouldn't have been exposed to a year ago. Not saying it wouldn't have been out there, but it wouldn't have been part of the Walt Disney Company.
Very true.
Yeah.
So, and a third of the Disney Company.
Where have any of you seen other? Have any of you guys seen any other Hulu original films, or is this your first one?
I've seen some Hulu original documentary films, but I feel like Hulu has been in the original series game and not so much in the original film game. And it's interesting, even recently through Walt Disney Family Museum, listening to the director of Klaus talk about trying to sell Klaus and having Netflix in mind for it. And because it's an animated film and it takes 4 years to make, it took him 3 times of bringing it before Netflix before they finally had any interest in it. At that time, they weren't even getting into the feature game, but they were getting into holiday specials. They just wanted more original holiday content, which is why they bought Klaus. And then just so happens that by the time Klaus was ready to come out, they were already very active in the feature business and, being nominated for Academy Awards. I do think it's interesting. I think this could have still come in some form to a Disney service, but I think it would have been more along the lines of either a Hulu original series, like a mini series, or something FX would do as a limited series. I think it's kind of up that alley. But before this, I feel like Hulu's interest in films have been purely documentaries, and those are the only Hulu films I can even think of that I've seen.
So you're right in that this is the 4th scripted Hulu original film. The first one came out in October, called Little Monsters, horror film. Wounds, a horror film. Big Time Adolescence, which was just not on my radar, but stars from that guy from Saturday Night Live who dated Ariana Grande.
Pete Davidson. Isn't that coming? I thought that hadn't come yet.
March 20th.
Oh, okay.
Seems to, according to Wikipedia. Yeah, it was released on March 13th on Hulu, and then I think they released it to like some. They might have released it to some like what do you call them, drive-in theaters or something.
This is different from The King of Staten Island.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I'm confused, because Pete Davidson's in that, which is also coming. Guess he's busy with Hulu.
Here's a question. Anyone happen to know what Hulu's first original scripted series was?
Oh my god.
Was it the Hot Wives, the Real Hot Wives of Orlando? That's the first one I watched, or first one that I was like conscious that this is Hulu produced content.
Yeah, that would have to have been a while ago.
It was. Yeah, it was a while ago. And then they gave it another season with like the same cast, but they were all playing different characters. And it was the Real Housewives of Las Vegas. And I recommend both. And I don't watch any of the Housewives shows, but it's just a very funny comedy show.
According to Wikipedia, as far as I can tell, it's something called The Confession.
That's what I thought too.
With Kiefer Sutherland. But
nope.
Money at 30 can correct me. He actually believes there's something called Battleground starring Station 19's Jay Hayden. And Battleground was released February 14th, 2012. And The Confession was released on May 2nd, 2011, but it was a 10-episode miniseries, and the episodes were 5 to 7 minutes. So I'm going to give Money at 30 the win here.
All right.
But
I liked Castle Rock.
What's that?
I like that show, Castle Rock. That's a Hulu show, right?
Oh, the Hulu, yeah, which is like in purgatory right now because they did 2 seasons and it hasn't been canceled, but it hasn't been renewed.
Yeah, there's several things that I'm surprised we haven't heard of a pickup for another season, or like, is it just supposed to be done?
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are trying, like, will the cast still be available by the time they get to film it? It's probably coming in. I'm trying to think of something that I like a Hulu original that I'm passionate about, and I can't, but I also haven't been super present. I did like that 11/22/63 miniseries that they did, speaking of Stephen King.
That was limited in nature. I was really into Difficult People and very upset when they canceled it, and they canceled it like a minute before Billy Eichner really took off in mainstream popularity. Like, if they had hung on for like another month, I feel like they would have renewed it just on the basis that he was in it and a writer and a producer on it. I love the Housewives shows. I wish they would have kept those going, but the 2 seasons are gold. Definitely go check those out. Pen 15 is probably my favorite that they've ever done, and I'm so excited for season 2, which is coming in September.
Yes.
Trying to think what else. I do not like Shrill. That is not my show. I'm loving Love Victor, and I think that's the first that was really like Disney started, like of the Disney majority owned Hulu era. And I'm really into that. And then I've liked a lot of the FX on Hulu content, which is more limited series based, but I really loved Mrs. America.
I haven't watched that yet, but I want to. I liked Devs. I really liked Devs. And
I like that too.
Little Fires Everywhere. I completely loved that. Like, I'm sad it's over because I want to watch it all again. But
yeah, that was great. I feel like that just, I didn't want more of it, but I loved what we got. It was interesting too, even on that Disney Insiders on Disney Plus instead of Hulu, learning about more of like what the differences are from the book, which I didn't read, and the scripted series. It was interesting to watch them kind of take a moment from the book and expand it in the show in that one episode.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Alex, because I really think there is a transition to Disney sort of supported content. I think Palm Springs is something there where it's like Disney is trying to get them to, get into the sort of buzz game where, something that, that indie kind of stuff. Because a lot of the original Hulu originals were kind of silly, a lot more comedy than drama. They had the breakout hit with The Handmaid's Tale, but you have coming up, you have like something like The Dropout based on an ABC News story. You have a couple Marvel shows like Hit Monkey and MODOK, and some more stuff from FX, such as like American Horror Stories and Why the Last Man, and then the odd one here, the Animaniacs continuation. So, I'm really starting to get the sense that they're really starting to push the Disney bundle as opposed to just Disney Plus. Like they want you to get the whole packet. And, I think we'll start to see sort of those lines blur. Like Disney Plus will be the Disney branded thing, but I think Hulu will really be a way, like almost like, an add-on to Disney Plus is kind of where it seems like it's going.
I forgot to mention The Great, which is a great show, and I'm excited to see where season 2 of that goes. The other thing I'm waiting for is I'm waiting for Disney to sort of treat Hulu in some ways as a library repository for all the Touchstone films that are not appropriate for Disney Plus, a lot of the Fox films that aren't appropriate for Disney Plus. There's not a ton on there, and it's a little confusing for me because Hulu is our TV provider. So through our Hulu subscription, I have access to things that somebody who's just subscribing to the Disney bundle base level of Hulu doesn't get. So like through FXM, I get a lot of old Fox movies, but you don't necessarily get those without that Plus TV option. And that's what I'm kind of waiting for. Every time they send us the list of everything that's coming in a certain month, if you want to know what's coming in August on Hulu, just go to Laughing Place. But I'm always shocked to see what's not on there. And it's often not a lot that Disney owns either organically or through the 20th Century Fox acquisition. I keep wanting to call it 21st Century because that's what the TV division is.
Did you but I mean, before we wrap up, do we have any final thoughts on Palm Springs itself? Should we go around and just say pick it or what would we give it out of 5? How about that? Why don't you go, Alex?
I would give it 5 out of 5, and I do also have some fun Disney connections if we want to talk about those after everyone gives their out of 5s.
Absolutely. Mike?
I'll say 3.5 out of 5. I thought they did a good job adding to a tried and true premise that we've seen many times before. But yeah, I want to just clarify, like, to anybody who's still watching who hasn't seen the movie, like, this is the premise of this film is like, what if Bill Murray like never got out of the time loop and just kind of gave up, and then you catch up with him later, and he's able to bring in additional people.
Are only people that appeared on Saturday? Are only people that appeared on Saturday Night Live allowed to be in time loops? So,
Mark Paul Gosselaar and what's her name are in a time loop on a Disney Plus film in the library from ABC Family called 12 Dates of Christmas. So I don't think there's an SNL connection. He may have never even hosted.
But he did appear on NBC.
Yes.
Becca, what do you give it?
I'm going to go with Alex on this. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I had a lot of fun with this. Sorry. Yeah.
I think I'm going to go 4 out of 5. I could go 4.5 out of 5, but I'm being lazy and don't want to have to say the extra half. It's good. It's fun. I like that it's short. It didn't wear on itself because it could have if it was another 20 minutes. But yeah, it was enjoyable. You know, it's one of those things that I only see because it's, you know, we're doing this. Like, I wouldn't have sought it out, but I'm glad I got exposed to it. So Alex, Mr. Connection Man.
Yeah. So J.K. Simmons obviously does a lot of things, most notably J. Jonah Jameson and Spider-Man, but he is a voice in Utopia. Who was he? He was like the Lion Mayor Lionheart or something like that.
Mayor Lionheart.
Peter Gallagher, who I most recently saw from Grace and Frankie, so that was all that was in my mind. But I forgot that he is the catalyst for all of the events in While You Were Sleeping, a Touchstone film currently on Disney Plus. But watch it now because it keeps disappearing and reappearing. And June Squibb, who is the grandmother, she's been in a lot of things that I've seen that I forgot about. I loved her in Table 19, which is a Fox Searchlight film. But give me a moment. Had a Disney animated credit. Someone's breathing really heavy. I think it might be you, Benji.
Probably.
It's all I can hear. Let me see. I should have made quick notes. I can't find it right now, but I believe she had a Disney animated credit. And then the last one is Jacqueline Obradors, who plays the stepmother of the bride, the much younger wife to Peter Gallagher. She was the voice of Audrey in Atlantis: The Lost Empire, which is pretty random. And so I thought that was interesting just to see how many Disney character voices. Oh, that's it. June Squibb, her Disney voice credit is very recent. She's in both Toy Story 4 as the antique shop owner, and then she was also in Ralph Breaks the Internet as it says Jimmy's grandma. I can't place that as a specific character, but thought that
Jimmy's
was interesting.
grandma.
Jimmy's grandma.
I wonder if that's someone who like picks up their kid at the arcade or something.
Probably. But the fact that she's the antique shop owner in Toy Story 4 is really cool. And she's the grandma who keeps congratulating each person on their speech every time one is given.
So I think that's going to wrap it up. Our next movie is on Thursday as part of our Comic-Con celebration. It is X-Men Apocalypse. And I believe it'll be led by Mac. And joining him will be Jeremiah, Mike, and somebody else who hasn't filled in their slot yet. So join us for that at 7:30 on Thursday to talk about, well, it's not the worst movie in the X-Men franchise, so there's that. And we'll see you then. And join us tomorrow on Laughing Place. Have a great day.
Bye.